Hi, this is Fox1989. This is just a little bit of a quick video just to I want to announce something that's going to be concerning my walkthrough. Is only show you one of my bases that I have, and it's fully complete. I've been using a couple tips and tricks that I've been practicing here. So first thing I wanted to say is show you is my base entrance, which is done using one-tile corridors. How one-tile corridors are built is you have to build them as an add-on to another room and then destroy the original room. Like, as an example, if I were to take a little bit of freezer, where's freezer, and put it here. Now, say that it went all the way down and this was blue. Well, just say I want to do it like that. I could then set this one to build and then destroy the rest of the freezer room, and this would continue building, assuming they could reach it. As an example, once I was down to just this one little section here, I had built a barracks here, and then built around here, around here, around here, with down here, and just left this spot here in the middle as unmined, well, up to here as unmined, unmined rock. And then once that was done, I mined this out, told it to go, and then destroy the rest of the main corridor, leaving only this section here to be built. And the reason I did that is it gives me an almost unescapable trap. How it works is this pressure sensor here activates this wind trap here and this wind trap here. Next, so any agents in these two cores here will get blown here and then up here. Once they get blown up this way, they'll activate this sensor here, which activates this wind trap here, which will blow them this way, and they'll hit this sensor here, which activates this trap here, which will blow them down, which they trips this sensor here, which activates these traps here, which blows them into the freezer. When they do, they'll hit one of these two sensors here, which activates this gas trap over here. Oops. Back off. And even if they manage to survive that, if they attempt to escape, this motion sensor here will pick them up and will activate this final gas trap, which is enough to kill most agents. And if they somehow manage to get to here without activating these traps, this one here activates this trap here, but this one here activates this one and this one. So if they hit this one, they'll get blown back, blown up, blown over, blown down, and blown into the freezer and still to their death. And it's not perfect, of course. A couple of agents have gotten through it, but it's still pretty darn good. The other announcement I want to make is I have installed the unofficial patch to the game just to try out a couple things I thought looked really cool. For example, here, one thing it allows you to do is to build gun racks in the barracks, which I've done to add a 1x1 barracks, or 1x4 barracks, sorry, to my armory to create a nice little framed room that the gun racks sit in. You can actually create this without, you just don't have the cool frame, it's just sinking in a little bit of extra armory here. So then I have my jail here. These are just 4x4 armories with some corridor here and a separate corridor here. And it really creates a nice little jail effect, plus it's easy to keep your guys under control. If, what's going to happen is once I research, I'm going to put a dread mill here facing that way, a dread mill here facing here, a dread mill here facing out, and a dread mill here facing in. And then with the two motion sensors here, anytime an agent escapes, it'll activate the dread mills. They'll get run ragged, and somebody will come, pick them up, and throw them back into the cell. If they do manage to escape out of into this main corridor, they're caught on the camera, and several of these guys are going to run in there, beat them in submission, throw them back in their jail cell anyways. And that was Jet Chan. He's back on the island. Jet Chan, the Anvil Super Agent. Super Agents are the only characters in the game that can actually kill your henchman. If he knocks the henchman out 3 times, that henchman is killed and you do not get him back. Unless you hack the programming, of course. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Jubei solo him by teleporting right beside him. And see what? Look how much damage he can do to Jubei. That's pretty good for an agent. Come on, Jubei. Gotcha. So now someone's going to go and capture him. Now I can see my trap system works. And that's why there's a bunch of body bags sitting underneath it. So Jet Chan is knocked out in a little bit. He's going. Oh, there's a guy who's going to bring him into his jail cell. Meanwhile, I have to make sure Mariana Mamba doesn't escape. What I do is once I have them captured, I run them through the mixers, which is why I have such a copious amount of them. And once they're done in the mixers, they're stupefied. I simply just take them for capture, as you saw, and they'll get escorted back to their cells. So this is my main training center here. It does have a couple of one-tile rooms, which again can be completely done without cheating of any sort of way. I'll show you how later. And this here contains everything any minion will ever need in one small room. I think it's 11 or 12 by 17. So I've got multimedia here, the highest smarts creating thing, some control panels and memory banks, and 3 of each basic minion trainer and 1 of each advanced. I've also scattered loot all over, positioned for best recovery of whatever stats that are going to be drained. A large amount of booths here. This is actually to keep minions in the vicinity of the training room, not to actually heal out my minions. I have some multi-gyms here and here, with some TVs, and the other side is simply a mirror image. And that has every single training facility, which is completely accessible for every minion in the game, which, as you can see, I have. Up here I have my equipment storage racks. As I mentioned, they are double the size of lockers, but can hold triple the stuff, meaning that they are a much better investment than the lockers, because instead of 2 lockers giving you 2, 1 locker gives you 3, although taking up the space of 2 lockers. Going up, we have my power plant. Once again, I'm using some 1 corridor rooms here in order to create access routes, so my technicians can get in between them and excuse me, can get in between them and repair them if needed. But the main advantage of this is I've got some fire extinguishers right nearby if anything happens. And the other thing is, I've noticed that infiltrators, saboteurs, and soldiers can only place bombs in certain rooms. The armory, the laboratory, the power plant, the control room, and possibly the training room. So, what this does is all the power plant is completely filled up. There's no place to place bombs, but I still have access routes in between, so everything can be repaired. Also, although my base is 100% complete, I don't need to build any more onto it. I might add a little bit here and there, just for fun. But it cost me 236 power to keep my base operating, and I have 440 power. That's more than enough power I need to keep my base running. So here I have a laboratory that's specific. I have specific rooms for each one. Once again, I've implied the one-tile room tactic in order to get some, well, one-tile rooms, to make sure that each one is perfectly customized for each piece of lab machinery, except for the database and the research machine, which are just stuck in the same room. And last but not least is my inner sanctum. I have done a little bit of using the mod here as well, simply to put hotel doors in the main base. Adversely, it also does allow you to put normal rooms in hotels too. So I got the double glass doors because that looks really cool. I have my cloning machine here, which you'll see later, in a 1x2 laboratory. How I built that one is I put a little bit of laboratory right here. Once my main inner sanctum was complete, they simply went in here and bombed it out because I put on the expansion to leave the main laboratory, and they built it from here. These ones were a lot more difficult to build. I built this by creating corridor that comes all the way up to here. And then I simply put this as an extension whenever this laboratory here was completed. And then since this main room was completed, except for a cutout section in the middle, I just set this one to build, blew up the rest of the lab, and they built it. And right there I have a control screen. It's not necessary, it doesn't do anything, but it looks cool. So that's all that really matters in your sanctum, is that it has to be ostentatious, right? And these here were the most difficult to build. How I did is I left a 5x3 square in the middle. Here, I'll kind of illustrate it for you. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over. I left that, and I cut it out as strong room, with the exception of this one and this one, which I left as solid rock. Once that was done building, I put one here, and then I put an additional extension here, because they technically count as two separate rooms. I set them to build, and then I destroyed the main strong room in the middle, leaving only these two to be built. Once they were built, I finished digging out the rest of my inner sanctum, and I placed my deck. Oh, another thing the mod does is it allows this here to be walked on. So, it also does a couple other things. It allows sentry guns to be built inside the base, where they can only be built outside. I don't really use sentry guns, so that's not a big deal to me. It allows the disguise sentry gun to finally be researched, because due to a bug in the programming, it's not researchable. And it also allows the monkey cage to be researched. Once again, it's not actually researchable in game due to a bug. And I don't really use, the only time I ever use sentry guns is right near the very end. I use them to defend the TV aerials, so, until I can get all 5 built up and my TV broadcast done. But more about that later once if I do an Island 2 walkthrough. That's up to you guys. If this is well received enough, I'll do an Island 2 one. And what else does it do? So it allows hotels to be built in the base to be built in the hotels. Increases your minion count to 150. That's the only thing I'm probably going to have to end up using in the main walkthrough. It's only supposed to be 100, but I'm going to try to keep it as close to 100 as possible. But sometimes it is a little hard if I don't realize myself being over 100. Oh, excuse me. But so I might go over 100, but I'll try to keep it as close to 100 as possible.